Omoyele Sowore, a well-known activist and politician in Nigeria, has never been silent when it comes to matters of justice and truth. Over the years, he has always placed himself at the center of conversations about freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. When it comes to the case of Nnamdi Kanu, Sowore has once again stepped forward with a very clear voice. He has openly called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to take the right step and free Nnamdi Kanu without further delay. Sowore's message is direct. He believes that the continuous detention of Nnamdi Kanu is not only unfair but also unlawful. According to him, the courts in Nigeria have already discharged Kanu. This means that legally, the case against him has been resolved in his favor, and he should not be in custody anymore. Yet, despite this clear court judgment, the government of the day has chosen to ignore it, keeping him behind bars. For Sowore, this is a sign of disrespect for justice and a serious insult to the rule of law. He made it clear that no country can progress if leaders deliberately ignore court rulings. The justice system is supposed to guide the actions of the government. Once the court has spoken, it should be final, unless there is another legal process that overturns it. In Kanu's case, the courts have discharged him, but the government continues to act as if the ruling means nothing. Sowore sees this as a dangerous practice that could weaken the entire foundation of democracy in Nigeria. Sowore has always been someone who believes that Nigeria must be built on fairness and truth. That is why his voice carries weight whenever he speaks on issues like this. By joining the call for Nnamdi Kanu's release, he is standing with millions of Nigerians who feel that justice has been denied for too long. He is saying what many people think but are sometimes afraid to say openly. For him, the matter is not complicated. If the court has discharged Kanu, then the government has no excuse to keep him locked up. He also pointed out that this situation is bigger than just one man. The way the government handles Nnamdi Kanu's case sends a message to the whole nation. If the government can disobey court rulings in one case, then it can do the same in other cases. This means ordinary citizens can no longer trust that the law will protect them. Sowore believes that once this trust is broken, the country will fall deeper into injustice and chaos. In his statement, Sowore challenged President Tinubu directly. He said Tinubu must decide whether he wants to be remembered as a leader who stood for justice or one who ignored the law. By refusing to release Kanu, Tinubu's government is showing Nigerians that court rulings mean nothing. This is not only unfair to Kanu but also dangerous to the image of Nigeria before the world. No serious country can claim to be democratic while ignoring its own courts. Sowore also reminded Nigerians that justice should not depend on politics or party interests. He said it does not matter whether one supports Nnamdi Kanu's politics or not. What matters is that the law has spoken, and the law must be respected. If the APC government continues to hold Kanu against the decision of the courts, then they are saying that they are above the law. And once leaders see themselves as being above the law, it destroys the very foundation of freedom. His words were calm but firm. Sowore is not calling for anything extreme or violent. He is simply asking for the government to do what is right. He believes that the path of peace and progress always begins with justice. The moment the government obeys the law and frees Nnamdi Kanu, it will send a strong signal that Nigeria is still a country where the rule of law matters. But if the government continues to hold him unlawfully, then it is telling the world that Nigeria is not yet ready to respect its own system. Sowore's voice adds strength to the growing pressure on the Tinubu administration. Many activists, groups, and ordinary Nigerians have already called for Kanu's release. By stepping forward, Sowore has made it clear that this issue is not going away. The government cannot pretend not to hear. The people are watching closely, and they are waiting for action. In simple words, Sowore is saying, the court has freed Nnamdi Kanu. There is no reason to keep him any longer. The government should obey the law and release him now. He is not asking for special treatment. He is not saying Kanu should be above the law. He is only saying that if the law has already cleared him, then keeping him locked up is wrong. It is that simple. For Sowore, this is not just about politics, it is about truth, fairness, and respect for the rule of law. When Sowore spoke about the case of Nnamdi Kanu, he focused strongly on one point: there is no reason for the government to still be keeping him in detention. The courts in Nigeria have already discharged him, which means he has been legally cleared. In every democratic society, A court ruling is final unless it is overturned by a higher court. Yet in this case, the government has chosen to act as if the court's decision does not exist. To Sowore, this is the biggest problem because it shows disrespect for justice and creates confusion in the minds of ordinary citizens. Sowore explained that when someone is discharged by the courts, it means the law has already spoken. There is no debate about it. That person should walk free without delay. But Nnamdi Kanu is still being held, and Sowore said he cannot see any lawful or moral reason for this. It is not about personal opinion or political rivalry. It is about justice. Justice must be the same for everyone, whether powerful or powerless, popular or unpopular. If the court has freed Kanu, then keeping him locked up is nothing but unlawful punishment. He stressed that actions like this make people lose faith in the system. In a country like Nigeria, where people already struggle with trust in government, this kind of behavior only makes things worse. If the government can ignore the ruling of the courts on a high-profile case like this, what will stop them from doing the same in smaller cases that involve ordinary people? For Sowore, this is not just about Nnamdi Kanu. It is about the entire justice system in Nigeria. According to him, democracy cannot survive if the government picks and chooses which court rulings to obey. The courts are supposed to be the final authority in matters of justice. Once leaders start acting as if they can ignore the courts, then it is no longer a democracy but something else entirely. Sowore warned that when people lose hope in the courts, they begin to look for justice elsewhere, and that can lead to unrest and instability. He went further to say that no matter the political disagreements or personal feelings that leaders may have toward Kanu, those feelings should not be allowed to stand in the way of justice. Nigeria cannot be built on hatred, revenge, or selective justice. If a court has said that Kanu is free, then the government has no excuse to keep him. Every day he spends in detention is another day of injustice, and it damages the image of Nigeria in the eyes of its citizens and the world. Sowore also linked the issue to the promise of change that leaders often make to the people. He said a government that claims to stand for justice and progress cannot at the same time refuse to obey the courts. Such actions expose the truth, and the truth is that the government does not respect the same rule of law it demands from others. Sowore said that is hypocrisy, and it cannot help Nigeria move forward. For him, there is a clear difference between justice and oppression. Justice is obeying the courts, giving every citizen fair treatment, and respecting the laws of the land. Oppression is ignoring the courts, silencing voices, and punishing people even when the law has set them free. By continuing to detain Kanu after the courts have discharged him, Sowore argued, the government is choosing oppression over justice. That choice, he said, is a dangerous one. He also reminded Nigerians that this kind of unlawful detention has happened before in the country's history. Whenever governments ignore court rulings, it creates bitterness and division among the people. It makes citizens feel powerless and unprotected. Sowore said Nigeria should not continue repeating the same mistakes. Instead, the country should learn from the past and choose a new path of respecting the law and protecting freedom. In addition, he emphasized that leadership should not be based on fear. A confident and responsible government should not be afraid of releasing someone who has been cleared by the courts. Keeping Kanu locked up shows weakness, not strength. It suggests that the government is more interested in controlling people than in serving justice. Sowore said this is not the kind of leadership Nigerians deserve. True leadership respects the rule of law, even when it is not convenient. Another point Sowore raised is the danger of double standards. If one person can be discharged by the courts and still remain in detention, then it means the law is not equal for everyone. That is not democracy. Democracy is built on fairness, and fairness means the same law applies to all people at all times. If the government starts treating some people as if they are above the law and others as if they are below the law, then the country is lost. Sowore warned that this is exactly what is happening with Kanu's case, and it must stop. He explained further that releasing Kanu would not only be the lawful thing to do but also the wise thing to do. It would show that the government still respects the law. It would calm tension and send a message to Nigerians that justice is alive. It would even improve the country's image before the world. On the other hand, keeping him locked up will continue to raise questions, create anger, and weaken people's trust. In very simple words, Sowore's point is this: there is no reason for Nnamdi Kanu to remain in detention. The courts have discharged him. Justice has already been served. The government is only making things worse by refusing to obey. Sowore said this matter is very clear. The law says one thing, but the government is doing the opposite. That is wrong, and it cannot continue if Nigeria truly wants to grow as a democratic nation. Omoyele Sowore did not leave his words hanging in the air. He directed them straight to the desk of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. To Sowore, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu is not just about politics, it is about leadership and truth. He made it clear that the President of Nigeria has the power to correct this injustice and that Tinubu's actions will determine how history remembers him. Sowore's message was not complicated: obey the law, respect the court's decision, and free Nnamdi Kanu. Sowore reminded Tinubu that no leader is greater than the law. Nigeria is a democracy, not a monarchy. In a democracy, the law rules over everyone, including the president. When the court gives a ruling, the president's duty is to respect it, not to ignore it. Sowore said that Tinubu must show that he is a leader who values justice and fairness. If he continues to allow Kanu to remain in detention after the court has discharged him, it will prove that he is not different from leaders who abuse power and disrespect the law. He also explained that leadership is tested in moments like this. Any leader can make speeches about democracy and freedom, but the true test comes when the law says something that the leader may not like. In that moment, will the leader obey the law or ignore it? Sowore said Tinubu has reached that moment with Kanu's case. If he frees him, it will show strength and respect for justice. If he refuses, it will expose weakness and disrespect for democracy. Sowore also warned Tinubu about the danger of setting a bad example. When a president ignores the courts, other leaders in smaller positions will copy the same behavior. Governors, ministers, and even local officials will feel free to disobey the law when it does not suit them. This will spread lawlessness across the country. Sowore told Tinubu that his responsibility is not only to rule Nigeria today but also to protect the future of the country. The example he sets in Kanu's case will remain for years to come. He appealed to Tinubu to remember that Nigeria belongs to all its people, not to a political party, not to a small circle of elites, and not to the government alone. By holding Kanu despite the court's ruling, the government is sending a message that certain groups in Nigeria do not matter, that their voices can be silenced, and that their rights can be denied. Sowore said this is unfair and dangerous. Nigeria can only be one nation if all groups feel respected and protected by the law. Sowore did not deny that Kanu has been a controversial figure. He admitted that not everyone agrees with his views or his methods. But he made a very important point. Justice is not about agreeing with someone's politics. Justice is about applying the law equally. If the law has set Kanu free, then personal opinions, politics, or grudges should not stand in the way. Sowore told Tinubu that it is not about whether he likes Kanu or not. It is about whether he respects the law or not. He further explained that the refusal to free Kanu makes the government look insecure. A confident government should not fear the freedom of one man who has already been discharged by the courts. Keeping him locked up only makes it seem like the government is afraid of him. Sowore said that true strength comes from following the law, not from breaking it. If Tinubu wants to be seen as a strong and fair leader, he must let Kanu go. In addition, Sowore told Tinubu that every action taken in power has consequences. Refusing to free Kanu will continue to deepen divisions in the country. It will create bitterness and resentment among many people who already feel marginalized. On the other hand, releasing him will calm tensions, heal wounds, and show that the government is capable of fairness. Sowore said the choice is in Tinubu's hands, but the consequences will be remembered by generations. He also challenged Tinubu to think about his own legacy. Leaders come and go, but history never forgets. Years from now, people will look back and ask, was Tinubu the president who stood for justice, or was he the president who ignored the courts and ruled with bias? Sowore said that Kanu's case is a chance for Tinubu to prove that he is different, that he respects the law above politics, and that he is willing to do what is right even if it is not popular among his party. Sowore's message was simple but powerful. The government cannot claim to respect the rule of law while breaking it at the same time. By keeping Kanu in detention after the courts have discharged him, the APC government is sending the wrong signal. Sowore said Tinubu must choose wisely. The world is watching, Nigerians are watching, and history is watching. He ended his call with a direct appeal: free Nnamdi Kanu now. Obey the courts, respect democracy, and prove that Nigeria is still a country of laws, not a country of political games. For Sowore, the path is clear and simple. Justice has spoken. It is time for Tinubu to act.